First, I would like to thank Iron Earth and the colleagues in the Environment Agency, Abu Dhabi and GD for giving us the opportunity to be here to share our knowledge about the environmental information and specifically on the collaboration. I'm pleased to really have with me a panel of distinguished colleagues who are really expert in about data environment, especially environmental data and sustainable development data in the Arab region. We have Dr. Wafa Hosn, who is the chief of the economic section in the United Nations Economic and Social Development of Western Asia. We have Mr. Mazen al-Malkawi from WHO. I will make a proper introduction when they speak. And we have Ms. Farah Choucair. She is the project manager of the Arab Development Portal. I just like to give you a brief, background on Iron Earth and how it was fostered. For me, Ajidi Iron Earth really have a special place in my heart because Ajidi, I was there in 2002 when it was, in the inception phase, and Iron Earth came about in 2009. We were, UNEP was really is a partner with Ajidi, and we made a proposal to host an international meeting to get all the global networks together and speak, how we can network global data in a more efficient and proper way. Out of that meeting was really the initial phases of Iron Earth, and we suggested, okay, let us have a follow-up, and the follow-up was an international conference, but a colleague, his name was Mark Sorenson, said, okay, let us do a summit. And I said, oh, summit needs a president. And I said, oh, he said, there is all kind of summit. Then we got the word summit. And our colleague in UNEP, Jerry Canahan, said, oh, let us call it Iron Earth. Here, then it evolved into a partnership that we see it as of today. Enough for this introduction, but I'm really pleased to see all the friends and the colleagues, and also to make new friends. And one of my old friends here is Mr. Anil Kumar. He was in charge of Ajidi for quite some time. Thank you, and I would like to invite our first speaker, who is Dr. Wafa Hosn. Dr. Wafa is the chief of the Economic Statistics Section, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia. She has been working with UNESCO since 2004. Key area of her expertise are economic statistics, national account, environment, and energy account, data management and analysis for sustainable development, environmental sciences, and natural resources management. She has been working with regional partner on the environment and sustainable development indicator for the Arab region. She coordinates diverse projects with other partners of the United Nations system and donors and agencies such as UN Development Account, the World Bank, and the Islamic Development Bank. I would like to invite Dr. Wafa to the floor to start the first presentation. Dr.
Wafa. Thank you very much, Dr. Adel, and thank you for the invitation to speak about work that we've started a long time ago. Getting national agencies together, getting organizations together takes a long time, and it's tedious. So I'll go just briefly on some of the work we've done together to bring sustainable development indicators together, and the process that it takes to come up with some tangible facts. So the process for regional SDG environment dimension, the issue is you have to bring together the main stakeholders. The main stakeholders, as Madame Leila mentioned, you have the statistical offices, you have the Ministries of Environment, the Ministries of Water. So we work together with the League of Arab States and UN Environment in the regional office in Bahrain, together with our UN sister organizations, to convene and bring together those stakeholders. So the first thing is to review the sustainable development indicators. We did it 10 years ago. The countries agreed on a common core list of indicators, and we worked very hard to have the methodologies of each indicator, translated into Arabic, and then provided to the countries to work on that. Just when they started, we had the SDGs. So as the SDGs came up, and then we had to review the work. And we didn't start from zero. We brought the same people together, and then we said, we had this previous list. Let's see what additional things we have, what is important to our countries, our region, and then we convened again. We called it the Arab Working Group on Environment and Sustainable Development Indicators. The working group reviewed the list of indicators, and then we convened again to a larger forum to present a framework for implementation of those indicators. And the meeting was in September in Cairo under the auspices of the League of Arab States. And what we presented was not just a list of common indicators. The framework for implementation took into account many dimensions to prioritize these indicators: availability of data, reporting to multi-environment agreements, many things that brought together a list of indicators that were agreed upon. So the recommendations that were brought by these meetings requested statistical capacity building, and this, came up. I mean, what we need is the countries to produce this data and not to come from a top-bottom approach. We need the countries to produce the data. We had to provide them with trainings. And regarding statistical part, there are known frameworks for statistics that help countries develop the environment statistics. So we worked with our sister organization in New York, the UN Statistics Division. There's a lot of work that has been done on online training, e-learning modules, where you can reach to a larger portion of people. They can register online, do their training, and then interact with the presenters, ask questions, understand, and then take a diploma for this online training. After the online training, we do a physical workshop. So part of these people who did the online training were invited to a physical training. We did that in Jordan with other regional partners. And I mean, this training brings together, like we said, ministries of environment and statistical offices to see what data they have from both sides, what is the data source, how they can bring it together to have it part of official statistics. And we will continue. So I said there are several frameworks for statistics. The system of environmental economic accounting is one of them. There's the framework for development of environment statistics. We'll be organizing a big meeting also with UN Environment, with UNSD, with European Environment Agency, FAO in Beirut in November. And all countries were invited to this workshop. Now, having said that, what's very important is to help the country develop their infrastructure for official statistics. And this infrastructure requires technology. And technology, besides the data sharing, besides the IT infrastructure that you need, we have to include the geospatial data, Earth observations and other geospatial data. That's why, I mean, in the UN Data Forum and in this event, Eye on Earth, there is a big portion of the session dedicated to geospatial, because a lot is free, available for use, but we need to be able to use open data to what they have from their census, especially the countries who did the census using geospatial. So you link it to your people and to your economy. And we did some partnership with the University of Malaga, who work with with the Mediterranean countries to focus on some SDG water indicators, marine and ecosystems, to use Earth observations to be able to link it to that. Now, what is the availability on environmental indicators in the Arab countries? We did an exercise in 2017, and we managed, yeah, I mean, in the SDGs, you have some goals target indicators that are more environment related than others. So when we take those targets and we assess the data availability from national sources, from publications, from the sources we get from the countries. And then there's certain way of classifying availability. If there's one data point, if there are two, or if there's more than two. And when we look at it and we see that the environmental indicators are the least available among the other list of indicators. You can see, for example, here what's pink is related to energy, but we know that energy is more economic than environment and social. And if we see that there's higher availability of data, it's because the indicators in this goal are more, economic and more easily, obtainable than the other indicators on environment only. We provided guidance on data collection. So I talked about the guiding framework that we presented. We also provided guidance on the methodologies and proposed list of indicators on climate change. We do a lot of work internally in ESCWA with the divisions that work on water, on energy, on food, and then we complemented with the statistical methodologies available for this. And then having the language sometimes a barrier, we translated all the metadata for the SDGs to enable compilers to follow the statistical standards. This is the list that was agreed upon with the League of Arab States, under the auspices of the League of Arab States. It's about 40 indicators. And it says what's the baseline, what's the availability, high priority, etc. And this was communicated to all Arab countries. Now, the problem with data collection and reporting for the SDGs, there are custodian agencies, like for each indicator, it's agreed that on health, WHO will collect, on environment. So we respect the data collection and reporting agreements that were done along for the SDG reporting. For the environment specifically, UNSD sends out questionnaires on water and waste. And this goes either to the Ministries of Environment or the Ministry or the statistical offices, where they coordinate to provide official data on waste and water. And those are consistent with SDGs and with international recommendations on water statistics. Now we see some national voluntary reports on SDGs. We rarely see some, statistical portrait or indicators in these NVRs. They put sometimes targets, like we want to reach whatever, like 90% renewable energy, but you don't see statistical portrait and trends in these. So when a country reports for the second or third time, and then there are no reporting on SDGs, it's about time that we include those trends and those indicators in the reports. So more reporting is needed on environment, and more coordination among organizations is required. Now, there's urgency to monitor and report, especially in our region. This is only a recent data that FAO compiled on temperature changes with respect to baseline period. This is for our region, and the trend is increasing. We can see that we can't avoid it. We have increasing temperatures. Countries that we don't think that they would have higher, like for example here, we had Mauritania and Egypt with much higher temperature increase than other countries. We have CO2 emissions, we have energy use. I want to end it here because it is alarming, and if we don't report on these indicators, environment will be left behind. I left it as open-end, saying that we are working with countries, we provided the support, there should be more work done, and then there is urgency to be able to coordinate and report. And I leave it for the questions after. Thank you.
شكرا دكتورة وفاء. We will keep the question to the end so we can get collectively. We can invite the panel here to. We were supposed to get, Dr. Ahmed Abdelrehim from Cairo online, but I think we have a problem with online access. But Dr. Ahmed is one of the key people. He is the program manager in Sidari, regional program manager for knowledge management, and he is one of the key people who worked on data with us as the really core team in the Arab League. Now I would like to introduce Mrs. Farah Choucair. She is the project manager of the Arab Development Portal, a joint initiative between the UNDP, Regional Bureau for Arab State, and the coordination group of the Arab National and Regional Development Institution, the Audit Fund for International Development, and the Islamic Development Bank. She has been managing the portal since its inception phase and has led its conceptualization and development since 2012. Mrs. Choucair has also led the development of the first regional SDGs tracking tool, an economist by training with an MS in development economics from the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. Mrs. Choucair, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Adel. It's always a pleasure to talk after Wafa. I will be today, I will not really focus on environment statistics. We can then discuss that during the exchange after my presentation. But I will be more specifically focusing on the big headline, i.e. the challenges and opportunities of implementing the SDGs in the Arab region, with a focus really on the monitoring framework and what it offers in terms of challenges, but also key entry points, not only for regional institutions, but more specifically for governments, for ministries, for public institutions. Through the Arab Development Portal, we've been Arab Development Portal, we've been working a lot with governments, with national SDGs committees, with ministries of planning from the Arab region, from Iraq to Algeria to Tunisia, Syria, Egypt, and others as well. So we've came to understand how the SDGs monitoring framework has actually very positively and proactively advanced the whole data ecosystem in the country. So the Arab Development Portal focuses really on this facilitating data management, analysis, and consumption, not only by data producers in the Arab region, but also by data consumers. So we also aim to facilitate the consumption of data, to break down its nature, so that more citizens, especially the less technical citizens, those coming from journalism, from civil society organizations, so that they can actually take a position and a role in the whole monitoring framework. So this is really what we offer. We offer governments an SDGs tracking and monitoring tool, a template, a functional template that can be actually customized to their own needs, but also following the institutional framework that governs the provision of SDGs relevant data in the respective country. We've partnered with national statistical offices to actually host the official statistics that relate to SDGs, and I will hopefully get to present the actual tool so that you get to see what I'm talking about. We also work a lot with youth, with journalists, and we offer to the general public a dynamic database that actually presents and represents official statistics in a user-friendly manner. Currently, we host almost 5,000 indicators from more than 130 resources on 12 topics, but also on the whole general framework of the SDGs. So these are the topics that we currently cover. And on official statistics, we try to extract published statistics from different platforms, but more, I mean, the entry point is usually the websites of national statistical offices, and then we move to other relevant ministries like the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Environment, and others. So the question is, I mean, why is it important to actually continue to disseminate official statistics if it's already published? Now, I mean, a very brief mapping of how governments publish their own official statistics show that even though 21 governments have actually a functional websites, only 10 offer a dynamic database, and only 7 are actually developing a national reporting platforms, and for very different reasons, which I can also discuss either now or during the discussion. But I mean, what we aim to do is we really aim to contribute to enhancing open data, the status of open data in the Arab region. So Tunisia is actually among the best performing countries, but in the open data barometer. But if you just look at the chart, you would realize that it's performing relatively poorly. So this just gives you an impression on the status of open data in the Arab region. So what we do as ADP, I mean, we try to really identify all of the relevant statistics published by the national statistics offices and other relevant ministries, as I mentioned. So just, I mean, a general look at what we do. We, for example, for Tunisia, we start with the IENS, the National Institute of Statistics, and then we move to other relevant ministries. And in coordination with the national statistical offices, so we also hold regular annual quarterly workshops with national statistical offices with ministries of planning to discuss this data flow and exchange, and also with the UN system, with colleagues from other UN agencies. So we're increasingly investing in human resources, as I mentioned, of both data producers and users, so that we can actually benefit from the whole data value chain. In the Arab region, and when we talk about data, the perception and the approach is usually focuses on data production. So most of the agencies will think about how to enhance data production, or run surveys, etc. And just picking up on what Wafa has mentioned on data availability. So our analysis and mapping shows that Arab countries can report on around 38% of T1 indicators. And frankly, this is not bad. I mean, as much as one would want to say that, this needs a lot of improvement, relatively, if you compare to other countries, and here I'm referring to the UK, to the US, and other countries, this is, I mean, they're performing relatively good compared to other countries. And this actually has to do with the nature of the monitoring framework that is proposed by the international community. So the statistical interpretation of leaving no one behind is one that is ambitious, but one that is forward-looking. So the monitoring framework, if you look at the whole list of the 232 indicators, you would realize that we have a future agenda. We're trying to push governments, but not only governments, any relevant body to actually improve its reporting. We're trying, as an international community, to also encourage potential data producers to benefit from advancement in data-driven technologies, open data, big data, citizen-generated data, and this is how the monitoring framework works. And as a starting point, I mean, we wanted at ADP to offer a very pragmatic starting point. So just a data warehouse that tells who users what is available. It lists statistics based on availability by theme, by goal, and other relevant categorization by disaggregation as well. And we've invested in open source technologies, content management systems, which can then customize based on the needs and the institutional setup of national governments, the national SDGs committees. And this is what we're doing with a few countries now. So going back to the monitoring framework, the SDGs interpretation, the statistic interpretation of leaving no one behind has left us with a quite complicated monitoring framework. So for each indicator, you can actually identify over 400 attributes. And also we've very meticulously looked into the indicators, and we identify 64 categories of this aggregation. And this is based on the latest update by UNSD. So in addition to this aggregation by age, by sex, by geography, by ethnicity, by income, etc. I mean, we reach up to 64 categories of this aggregation. So this is what I say is statistical interpretation of leaving no one behind, which should serve as an encouragement for countries to think of more innovative manners of reporting on SDGs. So the whole business as usual setup would not function if we were to actually report on the indicators as per the proposed disaggregation. And so we've developed an SDGs tracking tool that offers a quantitative analysis functionality, but also a report builder. And the report builder would also report on data availability, not only offer a quantitative analysis. And we're trying also support public debate on SDGs by producing and organizing events that are that would enhance the consumption of data, analysis of SDGs, kicking off the youth data-driven debates at universities, organizing an annual data camp titled Visualize 2030, but using big data technology to actually and open source technology to build a very functional content management system that is now being adapted to Iraq and Syria, and we're also supporting Egypt to improve its own national reporting platform as per the Egypt 2030 mission. And we're also trying to at least initiate a discussion on the potential of big data. And there is, of course, probably you would know that there's a big data working group that looks the potential of big data technology to report on various indicators proposed by the framework. And as much as this might sound ambitious and maybe even irrelevant for a region that suffers from conflict or where most of the countries are affected by conflict, we try to argue saying that, well, in 2015, at least, 90% of the data was created in the last 2 years, i.e. 2013 and 2015. So if we revisit the whole monitoring framework with this forward mentality and plans in mind, we would be able to actually invest in forward looking at future technology, set up business models, etc. Thank you, and apologies for taking more time.
Thank you, Mrs. Farah. It was really a very nice, practical presentation about a system that exists and it is regional. I think we would have liked to see a lot more, but because of time, we are a little this time. Now, before I introduce my next speaker, I just wanted to say that we supposed to have Dr. Menam Mohamed from UNEP, but it's unfortunate that we couldn't get him to be here today. But we have with us Mr. Mazen El-Malkawi, who is the coordinator environmental health exposure at the WHO Center for Environmental Health Action in Amman, Jordan. During the past 2 years, focus is being on quantifying the linkages between health and environment in the East and Mediterranean countries. There are 19 Arab countries and 3 Islamic countries. Mr. Mazen is really one of the most senior persons in the region, has been working on environmental data since the early 90s, and we shared the long way along. I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Mazen. He doesn't have a presentation, but we would like to share his thoughts.
Thanks, Dr. Adel, for the very nice introduction and revealing some secrets of the whole history of trying to respond to the chronic disease of the region, which is really trying to look at the figures. An American scholar a couple of years ago, unfortunately I forgot his name, he said, you have a new disease in this part of the world. He called it at that time statophobia. You can't describe the problem. You can't say it's big, it's small, but whenever you put figures, people start arguing. Unfortunately, that's a very rough indicator of how good is the data. Even once in Egypt, we were wasting a couple of hours trying to estimate the number of population of Cairo. Somebody was saying 22 million, somebody was saying, okay, day or night. The idea is really we have a lot of conflict about figures. In my previous session, I said, from our part, we are interested in monitoring, surveillance, having very accurate data, but we rarely communicate the output of this, which is unfortunately, if we keep it at the drawers and keep it in databases, not using it in the decision-making process, that would be really difficult. Trying to have the SDGs, for instance. From the day we agreed on the SDGs, we said this is belonging to the countries. It's not us, the UN organization. But what we would like to do is to facilitate the work of those countries. And unfortunately, until this moment, I've seen some of the indicators and the targets are being handled only by the different international organizations, which is hopefully that time is going quickly. We will find a way of handling. And one of the big figures that we are using from the health point of view, because what we are trying to do is to link a set of different indicators. The colleagues mentioned the custodians. We are in the WHO custodians for a couple of those. But one of the very difficult indicators that we are trying to collect is what is the burden of disease of the sustainable development, of the development on health, and the 192 countries of the region. Supposedly, this data should be generated at the country level, and we sort of in the WHO regions accumulate it and try to understand the trend. Unfortunately, I can refer to the region because I know it very well. Not all the capacities of the countries of the region are at this stage ready to do this. One of the basic difficulties that we are facing, the silos. SDGs is after removing the silos. If you want to report the interaction between the different environmental risk factors on health, you need to have all the players, all the stakeholders around the table, starting from the district level up to the national level. In 2016, we estimated that about 12.4 million people are dying prematurely because different environmental risk factors, mainly in 100 set of diseases. at the regional level, the Eastern Mediterranean, which is the 22 countries, 19 Arab countries, as Dr. Adel mentioned, 19 Arab countries plus Afghanistan, Iran, and Pakistan. We are losing about 850,000 people, prematurely because of different environmental risk factors. In the Arab world, go a step further, it's about 600,000. And we use that figure in developing a strategy for health and environment, which we are very proud that it was endorsed by the Arab Summit early this year in Saudi Arabia. Again, whenever you put those figures for the decision making, this is where the problem starts. And unless we strengthen the capacity of the different stakeholders to sit together, to have joint committees, you name the task forces, whatever, possibly under the leadership of the statistical departments, which are officially the reporting on SDGs, or any other, because in a country like Jordan, for instance, it's the Ministry of Planning is the reporting. But I mean, we need to start immediately. We should have started years ago to have those multi-sectoral mechanisms, because really, in trying to understand the data coming from the different sectors, let alone desegregation and talk about localities, it's really a difficult mission, and support is being needed at the country level. I just came from a mission in Pakistan. We are trying to estimate the impact of air quality in one of the cities on health. And really, it's not an easy job. I was putting myself in the place of the local. We need 3 sets of data: health data, environmental data, and population data. And unfortunately, it's not synchronized. There are no tools at the country level to synchronize. We end up at a strong recommendation was again on the multi-stakeholder. But if I want to leave a message, with you guys, is really trying to remove the silos. It's not an easy, not an easy job. But in order to have reliable data, we need to work with it. Thank you.
My presentation is about the institutional coordination for data to implement the SDGs in the Arab world. One of the really big challenges is to get the institution in the region, but not only in the region, everywhere, to get the institution to coordinate, work together, to know how they share things to be able to implement. And we all, this is the whole forum, the whole study symposium, and the UN forum. It is about data. And without data, we cannot really implement the SDGs. So we can talk on TikTok, but if we don't have the data to do it, then we will not be able to implement those SDGs. And this is the objective of this presentation, is to give you some insight of what are the key issues that really facing coordination, institutional coordination in the region. The main content of my presentation is really to give you a little bit about what is coordination, what is the goal of coordination. And I'll give you some key messages. Some of the key messages is, to implement the ICD, there is things that we need to learn to be able to implement the SDGs. And then to give you what are the challenges that we have documented or we have came up, we did a study with ESCOA and on the institutional coordination, but we focused on water and agriculture institution at the regional level. But we still explored what is the issue of coordination at the national level. And this study, we used a couple of tools. One is the SWOT analysis, looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And one was something called BIST, which is the political, environmental, social, and technological, factors that affect coordination. Of course, it is really subjective, because you don't always have the data that enables you to do those kind of analysis, but it still give you really good insight on what is going on. You know, there's a lot of definition for coordination, but I'm just going to give really a simple, use a simple one, which is the ordinary arrangement of group effort to provide unity of action in the pursuit of a common goal. It's things, parties that work, groups that work in an ordinary manner to achieve a common goal. Like your watch is a system. It is a coordinated system. It has element and it works and it's very precise. The difference between coordination and watch, this watch was designed with the element precisely how to work together. But in coordination, in giving institutions, that's not really where they were not designed to work together. Then you want them to work together. So there is a strong element of of effort needed to be able to move on. There is all kind of types of coordination, but mostly, people coordinate internally with their institution or they coordinate externally with other institutions. In the Arab region, it's unfortunately, like many other developing and even developed countries, internal coordination is not that strong. Even though when the texts we got, it's, oh, we coordinate, and it shows like, because it is a questionnaire. But when we try to really dig into it, into interviews and talking to the people, such a coordination, people doesn't know what is their next door is doing. In a lot of cases, but not in all cases. And externally, you know how to coordinate with other institutions. Because SDGs is complicated and need to be coordinated with all stakeholders. It is not the business of government. It is the business of everybody. And how to get the private sector work with the government, work with NGOs, and even the citizen to be into one integrated system. Then you got horizontal coordination when you talk to people, coordinate with people at the same level, and you got vertical when you talk institution or individual talk from different levels of management. As I said, we used a couple of tools. I'm gonna not repeat those tools. Some of the introductory messages that I would like to convey here is that these are interlinked, thus really require a strong interagency coordination. So if we don't have a strong interagency coordination, it will be difficult to implement the SDGs. I think our colleague, Mr. Mazin, mentioned silos. We cannot work in silos and expect us to implement SDGs. Most of the countries work and still work on piecemeal approach. What does that mean? There is a lot of people, a lot of talk about SDGs, and every institution talks, private sector talks. But where is the framework that holds all of those together into coordinated, concerted action? Thus, you need to have a national framework and a national strategy for SDGs that really frame all this together. And this has to be led by government, but it needs to consider all those stakeholders in the country or at the regional level that can really work on the implementation of SDGs. Hardly we see national original, as I said, national original frameworks or strategies. Regional work seems to advance than the national work. There's a lot of good effort at the regional level, but it's not exactly the same level you see at the national level. External coordination requires cross-sectoral synergy by all concerned ministry and stakeholders. as a mechanism to coordinate, most countries established national committee for sustainable development, and those can lead the SDGs implementation, but very few countries that really consider the establishment of a National Council for Sustainable Development, and this was really, recommended by the Agenda 2030s. One of the big messages I would like to convey here: know your issue, understand your issue. If you don't prioritize your issues and understand them, you will know what you are monitoring and what you will be reporting on, and is it a priority for country you will be or not. If you don't know it, then you will not know what kind of indicator you look for, what kind of data is needed there to be able. And these 10 issues were really agreed upon in a meeting in Tunisia in 2013, and I guess still valid to now. These are priorities for the region: governance, equitable growth and jobs, peace and security, poverty eradication, gender equality, food, energy, water, means of alimentation, and education. I think right now peace and security seem to overarch everything. If we look about its challenges, there's a lot of challenges, but it's expected. It's not only in the Arab region, everywhere. But the challenge means you are able to find ways to overcome those challenges. They're not barriers that you cannot overcome. They are challenges. So with the proper action, you can overcome those things. There is lack or weakness of coordination mechanism. There is, in a lot of cases, coordination is kind of loosely defined. There is no really a protocol for coordination mechanism. There is no, written or some agreement that the institution would sign to coordinate. So it is a loose kind of casual coordination process in most of the situation. Jurisdiction and sovereignty. Some institutions have more jurisdiction, are more sovereign, seem to influence other institutions, and they cannot, when they coordinate, they seem okay, they are coordinate for their own, as if they are sovereign to influence the other institutions. Of course, there is different differences in authority, in mandate, program cycle, and related. And this really make coordination is a lot more difficult. There are cultural ways and different ways of communication and jargons that's being used by different institutions. To harmonize them and get all of them to talk the same language, it's not an easy task. And of course, the policies, not all the institutions have policies, and if they have policies, not necessarily it is compatible policies. And there is, sometimes you got representative of agencies sitting in a coordination meeting, but they don't have the authority to speak on behalf of their organization. So if there is decision need to be made, those decisions are hardly can be made during the meeting, and they go back, and then we get into a lot of bureaucracy. But let us also understand, not everything needs to be coordinated. That's for sure. Sometimes things are simple, but we need to know what that don't need to be coordinated. Of course, competition and the own agenda between institutions also kind of hinder coordination process. And one of the things that's inherently hinder coordination is the institutional structure. I will elaborate on this in a couple of slides. And lack of incentive. If you don't have incentive as an institution, you will not coordinate. You need to see incentive. And the same thing even for the individual. The individual need to see some incentive investing their time and resources. The institution, the same thing.
And of course, norms and traditions. Sometimes the norm or tradition in some institutions are not really very cooperative. They are not willing to share, and things become difficult. I just highlight some of the institutions. Most of the institutions in the region are hierarchical, and this hierarchical is like a military thing. You know, it was originated from military, so it is top-down approach, and we need to obey. But it's not a flat structure that's easy for people to share and exchange and coordinate. Of course, there is other, there is a lot of structure, but this is more flat. It's still hierarchy, but more flat because the authority is not in the hands of one person, but you have some, more than one person in there. This is a flat structure, and flat structure enhances coordination quite a bit, but management in flat structure sometimes is very difficult because of the reporting lines. So, you could move to flat structure, but if it's not managed in a proper way, it could be a problem as well. And there is what they call it metrics. Again, the reporting line is a problem. There is need for institutional reform in most institutions with the structure. They don't have to turn down things, but they need to find individually, each institution need to find a study and know what need to be done in terms of structure. I will talk about opportunity. There is a lot of opportunity. We can really, with coordination, bring coherence through national frameworks, strategies, and similarly at the regional level, we can do that. So frameworks and strategy at the national and regional level are opportunity to get coherent action on the implementation of the SDGs. Team coordinated work creates opportunity for concerted, efficient action and find solution to problems. Many solutions really are willing to do to have demand actually institutional reform. So hopefully they do it. Like the League of Arab States, they are trying to reform. And there is increasing recognition and the need for coordination, and there is increase in awareness as well as the will to coordinate. We have more technological advances that really enable us to be able to coordinate better than before. And we know the social media, the internet, and all of these things. There are success stories and practices that we can use those success stories and practices in the Arab region to show it to others. And many donors, many international organizations are willing to provide support. So let us, take that opportunity and get the support, especially in terms of capacity building. We need to develop, we develop a lot of portal, and but we cannot maintain a portal by trying to get data and populate this portal ourselves. We need to develop platforms that others are the ones who populate this. We should not try to collect the data and manage it. This is, I have been in the region 25 years, and I have seen this, it's not working. So, but if you build a platform and everyone contribute, they have their own data, they manage their own data, but it's like, what Uber do, or what's BNB do, or what's Amazon do. They provide a platform they can use, and they don't have any resources. Uber doesn't have one car. They don't own one car. Or the car is owned by someone else, but they knew how to have a system that works. Before I conclude this study, this was sponsored by AGD, and my colleague and Adel was there, and we did a study, believe it or not, with $50,000. We got 16 studies, 2005, 11 of them were at the national level to know the status of environmental information, and 4 were at the regional level. Honestly, I hope or I thought that we can do something now and say, where are we? Where is the country are now compared to 2005?
So my name's Mike Gill. I'm from Canada. I'm a biodiversity guy. I work on biodiversity indicators and visualization. And the first presentation talked about how few environmental indicators there are comparative to others, especially within statistics departments. And then when you take that and look at biodiversity, it's even worse usually. So my question is looking at the Arab Development Portal, and I looked up SDG 15, and there are some biodiversity indicators that have been downscaled to the national level. There's a lot more indicators that are global that could be downscaled. In the Arab region, is there a willingness or an openness to taking global data sets and using them at a national scale, or are there barriers to that in terms of trust and methodology? And if so, how do we solve those? I got one here that works.
Next to you.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, my name is Maria Ivanova. I'm from the University of Massachusetts in Boston, and I want to ask a question like you asked in the beginning about the urgency to monitor and report. What are the incentives for Arab countries in particular to report on the various indicators? I work on creating an environmental conventions index. We work with the international environmental agreements, and we've taken the national reports that countries submit to the conventions and are able to track the implementation of those conventions. So in a sense also, how are you working with the conventions to integrate into the SDGs data? And I will share with you later the analysis of the Arab League, and the performance of countries on both reporting and on implementation differs quite substantively. Of the 22 Arab League members, only one has reported 100% to the Basel Convention on transport of hazardous waste, and that's Bahrain. 100% of the time they have reported, the others have not. On the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, and Ramsar is just having a conference of the parties here in Dubai this year, the reporting rate is much higher. There are 18 of the Arab League states are members, and 9 of them have reported 100% of the time. So what are the incentives and disincentives for countries to report, and then how do you work with the conventions on monitoring the performance in the SDGs context?
I think we didn't have a microphone here. Good. I think because of time, we could.
Thank you for posing these questions. I'll start with the incentives. So there are internal incentives, so nationally driven incentives that have to do with the fact that increasingly more civil society organizations can actually access and know how to access data on the countries. So if governments did not really look into whatever data and information that is available, whether internationally produced or nationally produced, and actually discuss it in their national setup, they risk actually, they risk alienating the general public. So this is one of the internal incentives of governments because of increasing access, internet usage access. Governments have an incentive to take part of the discussion, because the discussion is happening whether governments ought to be part of it or not, and this is why this is one of an internal incentive. Another which Dr. Ahmed has actually talked about has to do with the regional setup. So figures and analysis like this, saying that X Bahrain can report 100%, only Bahrain can report 100%. If discussed and brought up in regional forums, this offers an incentive for other countries to follow. So this is what I call positive, positive competition among countries. So in November, end of November, another forum will be taking place by the Arab League. And I've witnessed, in every regional event or forum, governments actually taking note of whatever other governments are doing, and really, this has also encouraged them to do the same in their home country. On using whether governments are open to use international data sets, yes, on SDG 15, but also on 16, which is quite controversial, so looking into the governance framework. Governments like Tunisia, for example, Tunisia has worked a lot on governance indices, trust in government, diversity, political participation as well. And they recently launched a survey that looks into the citizen society and the relationship between citizens and trust in government based on international indices. So the presence of international indices and data on different indicators have actually pushed the governments to conduct their own surveys or to adapt some existing surveys to include more questions to capture as much as possible of the SDGs.
Yes, and quickly,
1 minute.
on environment and natural resources. It's not like you have borders in the economy, it's transboundary, you have shared natural resources. And we have to look at it this way. Global data sets, yes, because we have animals migrating from one place to another. We have shared aquifers between countries. So we have no other choice. Countries have to accept the global data sets when they're well done. And you have to have also credibility in the global data sets. So this, what we talked about on the geospatial, on the new technology, would give more credibility to these global data sets. So let's hope, yes, we need it. We need to localize it further, and we will work with countries to make these data sets, at the national level and how we can work it out. Just one more thing on the multilateral. Yes, we have many countries signing multilaterals. I can tell you 11. They signed the Basel Agreement, and we had it. They wanted to export the waste, the toxic waste along the Mediterranean. It's not signing, it's respecting and then following up this. There are no legal implications, not like the EU. The EU have directives and they have legal implications, not at our part.
Yeah, the question of the incentives. I would go in a different angle. I'd say ownership and reporting on behalf of the country for decision making should be the way around. Otherwise, comparison used to work in our countries. Once a country is sort of reported to be online, you see others are following. Scaling down global models is not as straightforward as this.
Thank you, Mr. Mazen. I just want to say something quick, then we'll conclude this session. Countries have overburden of reporting to MEAs. And they don't have the system that really put the data in a coherent way that can be used by others. It's one database, but it can be used by different reporting authorities. This is what we need to work with countries and help the countries do. Because there is definitely overburden, and that's why they don't report. I want to stop at this because I know you want to run to the opening session, and thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts and to listening to us. I thank all the panelists who has been very informative, and thank you all the colleagues who have been helping us here. Thank you very much, and hopefully we have more interactions through the next 3 years.